satisfy the cravings in my bones. But this is the stronger lesson, for his soul is already marked by his own hand.
Perhaps this is the best place in the world for Theos. Somewhere he can't cause further harm. Still, you eventually found the Ovara. What is a few thousand years to someone like him?
You regard Theos' soul still and subdued, and your pronouncement seems to empower your spirit. Your will seems to you now a thick chain, and you wind it around Theos, constraining all movement, eliminating any possible last means of resistance. You call to mind the eternal prison, the vast empty cavern in its cell of Adra, vacated by souls that chose to betray themselves in order to escape an infinite abyss of hopeless self-reflection. You choose a vacant pillar and put your consciousness into it, creating a perfect, inescapable hollow with space for one. To see me, I picked to imprison him forever. To face justice, essentially. And now you gather up Theos' soul and bear it to the pillar like some bodiless jailer conjured by justice itself. You feel its resistance now, the abject terror radiating from it, but your bindings will not be broken. When at last it is sealed away and you begin to recede back to your center, you could almost swear you hear a distant wordless cry for mercy. In the stillness that follows, a single word echoes through your mind, a word you spoke where you were one with Theos in an ancient memory. You realize it is the word that activates the machine.
Hey.
They'll never know I'm here.
Oh, we can talk. Wow, Durance. Can I rest? Hey, okay. Let's talk to our people. You ripped his soul apart?
Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
I got justice.
Not many can say that these days. Not with the gods using the world to settle their problems. You'll be feeling better soon then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Yes.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd find a way to give them the courage to face it. Not because they think there's some god looking out for them, but because they've just got it in them. And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
He winks. Okay.
So much for Theos, then.
The membranes of Pelagina's golden eyes sweep out and retract as she gazes into the great machine.
Now you have a chance to set things right. Back to the proper order of things. It will take the Dyrwood generations to recover. But at least these souls will find their way back to the wheel, as it should be.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Astounding. I always knew the Leaden Key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into. And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. With a decision that will affect millions.
He looks at the massive Adra pillar.
But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Theos had become to realize that.
Maybe so.
It's your decision, of course. And whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in Gilded Vale.
The end of the road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were a field in need of a flame's cleansing. Would that my own trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of Durance nor of Margaret. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A god's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well said, Durance. Okay, let's do this. Oh boy. This should be good. With your companion bearing witness, you step up to the place where Theos once stood before his people long ago. The great machine lies in front of you, idle, ready. You've seen this machine and others like it in operation. You understand how it works. It is a device for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter to influence that direction. Though, as big as the machine is, it may be the last thing you ever do. Speed the command to activate the machine. There is a shrieking of stone grinding against stone as old cogs loosen and begin to turn. You have only moments before the souls will be sent into the Adra vein. This will be your only chance at redirecting them. So this one is what this is Elia, what she wanted me to do. This is Whale. This is what Aloth wanted me to do. No, this is Whale. No, this is Aloth, this is Pelagina, and this is Ether. You promised Galawain about you would distribute them among the Dyrwood? I promised Elia I would return the souls to the body they were intended for, and honestly, that's kind of what I want to do. This is supposed to be a good playthrough. Like, I'd have been playing a good playthrough the entire time. Yeah, let's return the souls to the bodies they were intended for. You close your eyes and expand your perception outward, taking in the immense totality of the tens of thousands of souls orbiting the chamber. Your grasp of the soul is tenuous. You find yourself fighting to keep them all within your influence, and you can feel them slipping away from you as the machine gains speed. A brief moment comes when it feels as though you hold all of them at once, and their force is so great it feels as though they will tear you apart. In that moment, you dedicate your entire being to bending their orbit, channeling their flow in a new direction.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Dyrwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the souls diverted by Theos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren, or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Wideone's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming. Yet the last hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many
Hey, he's the
they
child that
saw
we're supposed to
Helia's
go in
hand
there.
it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again. Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived, and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But once the dozens had regrouped in the wake of the riots, they quickly put an end to the criminal activity, patrolling the streets in droves and administering their brand of law on any perceived offenders. They also took the opportunity to depose the weakened Knights of the Crucible from their position of authority, branding them traitors to the people for their actions during the riots. Whatever knights weren't stoned to death in front of their keep were forced into exile. The external contingent of knights stationed at Fleetbreaker Castle would remain there, their high justice plotting the city's recapture.
Oh god.
The dozens would soon find themselves overwhelmed by the problems of a leaderless metropolis, and in the days and months ahead, Defiance Bay remained on the brink of collapse. The destruction of the machine atop Ter Noaneth spelled the end of the reanimated corpses in Heritage Hill. Though at first few were willing to venture into the abandoned district, it was soon cleaned out and rebuilt. The district's horrors still fresh in people's minds. It would be some time before it was fully repopulated, but eventually the lure of cheap prime land would all but erase the memory. The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an Animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay. But those who had escaped the melee and the palace hearings remembered the testimonies of the strange guest who had shown up that day and absolved Animancy, implicating the Leaden Key instead. The rumor spread quickly, and soon the popular belief was that the assassin had been a Leaden Key spy.
Yes.
When the legacy had lifted, people came to see it not as a sign that the riots had been according to the gods' wishes, as Theos had hoped, but as a confirmation that Animancy had never been the source of the problem in the first place. Deerwoodens instead convinced themselves that the riots had somehow purged Defiance Bay of Leaden Key spies, and that the end of Whitewind's legacy was their well-deserved reward. The rage against Animancers was quickly forgotten, and those who had survived were permitted to return to Brackenberry Sanitarium and rebuild it so they might resume their studies. Abydon's renewal brought new vigor and purpose to a god long known for quiet, steady labor. Handicraft saw a revival in the Deerwood, and no smith wanted for an apprentice. Additionally, Abydon's restored interest in preservation led to redoubled efforts to survey Engwithan ruins. Animancers and craftsmen alike found much to study, but tensions with Aer Glanfath rose. As for Stalwart, the Battle of Caeron's Scar only strengthened their resolve to unlock the mysteries of Durgan steel and build new marvels with the White Forge.
Yeah.
However, Stalwart's ambitions brought them into further conflict with the Red Serens, as more and more impoverished communities gathered at the border and vowed to finish the work of the Iron Flail. It would be many generations before the region saw peace. The Flames That Whisper clan found a cautious peace with Stalwart, particularly once the villagers heard of the aid the ogres had offered against the Eyeless. The clan moved back into the Russet Wood, and as Stalwart grew in prestige, the villagers formed a tighter alliance with their ogre neighbors. Within a generation, Ogre traders visited Stalwart,
Yeah!
and village hunters were welcome in the Russet Wood.
That's awesome.
Once Maneha had made peace with her memory, she decided the time had come to face her more recent past. For the first time in decades, she returned home to Rawatai, and she found that it had changed as much as she had. New districts had sprung up along the coast, while others withered into crumbling husks, and the streets had changed their course as surely as rivers.
That's weird,
Her
Tasumi.
parents wept with joy at her return. They still ran the old spice shop, and in its many aromas and flavors, she found memories of the places she'd traveled and the people she'd known. She told her story, bottle by bottle, and began to build a life on the soil she knew best.
Oh, that's so
The
cool.
fortress of Cadnua became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur. After the death of the master below, a strange quiet fell over the endless paths of Odd-Nua. The attacks on the fortress above ceased, Odd-Nua's silent titan the closest remaining thing to a master in its musty, forgotten passages. Pallegina had gone against the Duke Spell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Weidman's legacy, the Valian Republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Pallegina was banished from the Republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went.
Aww.
Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale.
That hand? Yeah.
Comfortable far from cities, he settled in Deerford, which, like many towns in the Deerwood, was beginning the slow process of rebuilding. Believing now that it was the obligation of Kith to be the leaders their gods had not, Adair was soon named mayor of the town.
That's so
Under his
cool.
guidance, Deerford soon began to prosper. He expelled the last of the Scanites from the area and drew new settlers with the offer of land, a trick he had learned from someone he otherwise preferred to forget. With each passing day, Deerford would come to more closely resemble the Gilded Vale of Adair's childhood, the one worthy of its name. When the dust settled in sun and shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ixarchanon, his former master. He saw where the Grand Master had gone wrong and what would be required to undo the harm Theos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Theos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key.
Oh,
With the
nice.
Watcher's goals accomplished and his own vows fulfilled, Kanorua sailed back toward Rawatai, thinking on the lessons his travels had provided him. By the time he landed at Tekoa, he understood what his path must be. Standing before the Lore College, Kanorua explained that the tablet he sought had been destroyed, and so a true interpretation of the Tonvi Oratoa could no longer exist. The people of Rawatai would have to create their own. He described the many strange things he had seen in his travels, and announced his intent to pursue the accumulation of knowledge abroad, seeking answers to new questions.
Oh, that's
True to his
cool.
word, Kana soon set sail on yet another expedition, and in Tekoa, his passionate accounts inspired many to follow in his footsteps. With Theos defeated and the souls released from sun and shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood, and a measure of grace for her own troubled past.
Oh, that's cool. She went back to where
Durrance
Ether
used
is.
Magrin's strength only until Theos had been cast from the world, and then, swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. Sagani experienced the 4 months of her journey back to Masuk in vivid colors. She strove to memorize every moment of her final trip through the Dyrwood, Erglonfoth, the Valian Republics, and beyond, preparing to tell her village of what she had seen on her long journey. All of Masuk shared in her triumph, and she felt her pride and elation magnified by the joy of her village. Never again did she doubt the value of her sacrifices. After decades as a long hunter, Sagani finally became one of Masuk's most respected elders. She guided her community with wise counsel, and a generation after she finally passed, another huntress journeyed into the world to find her soul. For you, the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
They didn't say anything about the rogue nor the monk. Oh man, that was great. Alright, let's speed this up. I gotta go to bed. I wonder if he lists every patron. Every patron of the thing. Like they must list them at some point, right? Oh yeah, there they are. Yeah. It's gonna have to be Riot to sue me. I'm sorry. It's gonna have to be Riot. I mean, I love you and everything, but I can't. Like, I'm way, way past my time. Like, I'm 1 hour over. I want to see if there's a message at the end or something. Okay. Does it just bring me back to... Okay, that's what it does. So you're saying that I have a save now to sue me. Right? So like now I have a full save at the end of the game somehow that I don't see here, but I do have, that makes it so I can start a new game and load that save from there. Right? That's it? That's it. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the stream. That was amazing. Guys, I've spent what now? Like it was 91 hour before we started. Well, when we started the stream approximately, and then we spent another like I don't know 3 hours on top of it. So probably like 95 hours of streaming for this game, and it was like every second was worth it. It was so much fun, guys. It's just mind blowing. I loved it. I freaking loved it. I cannot wait to play the sequel. If you guys want to see me start the sequel, it's going to be on Friday morning at 9 a.m. EDT. So very early in the morning, I'm going to be streaming that game the entire day. Probably going to be like an 8-hour and then plus of streaming that day. I'm going to take a break sometime in the middle to eat something, and I will resume again the streaming. It was freaking fantastic. I cannot wait to start the sequel. We're going to play on Path of the Damned this time instead of playing on hard. And yeah, the playthrough, if you guys missed the beginning of the playthrough, everything is on YouTube. All you need to do is type in chat, !YouTube. They'll give you the link. You can watch the entirety of it. Everything is there. And I will be uploading tonight's stuff tomorrow on YouTube. And then it's going to be available for you guys to watch. Other than that, tomorrow, there is a stream. Tomorrow at yeah, at 6:30 p.m. EDT, we're going to be watching. We're going to be playing some Forgotten Anne. We're going to finish Forgotten Anne, and then if we have some time, we're going to finish Omen's Sight. We were so very close to the end of Omen's Sight, so we're going to try and finish that off tomorrow as well. And so that way we're free for the weekend, and we can just play tons of Pillars during the weekend. Also, don't forget that there is a giveaway at the end of the month on the 27th at 7 p.m. EDT. All you need to do is follow the channel and then be there on the day of the drawing. We are giving away the link's not working. What? No! Hold on. We're giving away a Steam copy of Dark Souls 3. So if you don't own Dark Souls 3 and you always wanted to play it, it's going to be free for you guys if you go to Hold on. Doing two things at once, that doesn't work. Here's a link. I'll have to fix it. Yeah. So yeah. We're going to be giving away a copy of that game. If you guys want it, all you need to do, as I said, just follow the channel, be there on the day, and you're set. If you are a sub to the channel, you don't even need to be there. You're just entered automatically. We give away a copy of a popular game on Steam every single month. So all you need to do, again, is just be there on the day of drawing, follow the channel, that's it. This month, Dark Souls 3. Next month, we don't know yet. It's going to be a surprise. So yeah, guys. Love your faces. Super happy that you guys have been here tonight. It was a fantastic stream. Great end to that playthrough. And before we go, we're going to go and host somebody. So guys, hang tight. We're going to try and find somebody to host. Who's streaming right now that should have some love here? You know what? Pims is streaming. And I would love to give Pims some love. Because he deserves it. So here is Pims. He was here a little bit earlier, playing some Overwatch. Give him some love, guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Forgotten Anne. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.